Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Doe Show. We are back today with Anastasia Halcomb. Hi, Anastasia.
Hi.
Welcome to the Doe Show.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
So, Anastasia, I've been watching her on in some of the Facebook groups, and she put out a video the other day, just kind of amongst the group there, that totally inspired me. And I was like, yes, that is awesome. I love it. And so I messaged her and I said, Anastasia, I've got to get you on the Doe Show. And here we are today, just a few short days after that, ready to jump on and talk a little bit about your story, Anastasia. So tell us, how long have you been with doTERRA? Tell us a little bit about your doTERRA journey and how you got started.
Okay. So I actually joined doTERRA because I was that typical mom on Facebook that was always posting how I was sick, I was depressed, my kids were sick. At the time, we had just moved to Hawaii. My husband's in the military, and we have lived all over. And I had met my uplines they were also military spouses. Our husbands had all deployed together when we were living in Alaska. And I was on multiple medications from about the time starting around 18 up until it had been about a good 10 years. So by this point, the medications weren't really working. I was taking more medications than really necessary. And I was heavily medicated, very depressed, and in constant pain. And my kids were constantly getting sick. So my friend reached out and she was like, I see that you're always sick. I see that like you're struggling. And she's like, I just started using essential oils, girl, and I want you to try them. And I was like, yes, at this point, I'll try anything. Like, I am desperate. So she called me up on the phone, and right then and there, I bought a kit. It was the Home Essentials kit, and it just had, the top 10, the diffuser. And then I just got to work on researching. And in a matter of 6 months, I weaned myself completely off of, with my doctor's, permission, not that they were looking forward to it. So I weaned myself off of all of that medication. It was 15 different highly addictive medications that I was on. So I detoxed like a drug addict. I was vomiting and in bed, and all at the same time, I had a few miscarriages, and we had a few children as well. And so, being with the kids, my husband was gone a lot with, being deployed and such. And as I came out of that fog and the oils really started supporting my body, and I got on LLB, and my life changed. I started using them with my kids, and I was amazed. So I used the oils for a solid year, maybe even a year and a half, before I even thought about doing the business. And I never would have done the business, honestly, except we moved from Hawaii to Alabama. And when we moved from Hawaii to Alabama, my husband's income was cut in half. And we still had the same amount of children and the same amount of bills and everything. And so he looked at me and he was like, babe, you got to get back to work. And I used to work in the entertainment industry doing hair and makeup, and I have a background in psychology. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to start all over. And I had really lost myself and my identity. Like I had become like, oh, this is who I am. I'm this, I'm the stay-at-home mom. And I wasn't finding really any fulfillment in that. I wasn't doing anything that I enjoyed. Again, starting over. Anyone who's, in the military, you know what it's like. You follow this man all around the world, and you have to start over every single place. And my upline actually overheard us. We were staying at her house while we were having our house get ready, and she goes, "You could always do doTERRA." And I was like, "Seriously?" And she goes, "Seriously." I said, "You actually make money with the oils? How?" And she goes, "Oh, girl, let me show you my paycheck." And she showed me her paycheck. And at the time, she was a platinum, and she was a good earning platinum there. And she showed me her paycheck, and I went, oh my gosh, like, even if I make half of this, that would be more than enough. And it was literally that moment. And that day I said, let's do it. My husband's like, hell yeah, let's do it. He's like, get me out of the military, baby. So I asked her, I was like, what do I do? She's like, well, you got to go through these modules. At the time, like Mary had done these modules. And so it was like that online module training. So she was like, it'll take you a couple weeks. Later that day, I come back, I'm like, done all the modules. I've watched all of them. I've absorbed it all. I've printed out. I made a binder. And she goes, you did all of them? And I said, yes. What's next? And she goes, well, you got to start enrolling people because, I mean, well, that's how you're going to make money. And I was like, okay. I said, well, I know two people, you, who's my upline, and then my upline's upline. And that's it in all of Alabama. So I said, I'm just going to start cold calling my friends and family. And so I started calling people up, and I enrolled 35 people in like a 40-day time frame, all over the phone. And I hit silver in 2 months. And at the time I was pregnant with our 5th child, Arabella, and my husband was gone. So there was 2 things that intrigued me with the business. One was I could actually make like good money. I could make money that could rival what I was making in the entertainment industry. I would make around, $1,000 a day. And I was like, I could make, but that was very like, you had to get on a job, and then you had to, and most people, unfortunately, it's kind of that world where you have to like sleep your way to the top, and I wasn't willing to do that. And so to be able to make a good income, even retire my husband, get him out of the military, bring him home, because that's a story for another time, but that was never even the route we wanted to go. But God works everything out for good, because we never would have met our uplines if he had never joined the military. So absolutely amazing. So anyways, that was the one thing that intrigued me, was like, wow, this is a business. The other thing was, and I could do it with something that I was already passionate about. I already talked to everyone about the oils. The oils had changed my life. They changed the way that my freedom and how I parented my kids. Like, I was that girl that was scared to death of my child getting sick. So if anyone was sick within like a mile radius, I was like, stay away from me, stay away from my kids, stay away from my house, because I knew what that entailed. That entailed a ER visit that was going to take 3 hours in the middle of the night, because it can never happen during the day, during normal, doctor visiting hours. It was going to mean it would be when my husband was gone, I'd have to get all the other kids out of bed. I'd have to take them to the ER, and then they would all be exposed to some other virus that they would all get and contract. Wow. And then I would have to pay money for this medication, and then it would weaken their immune system, and we would start the cycle all over again. So I believed in the oils because I had seen them work. Now at this point, I was never getting sick. My kids were never getting sick. Their immune systems were strong. And she came to me, and it was like, wow, there's more hope in this. Like, not only do I have this freedom as a mother and this health, but now I have this financial freedom that's available as well. So that was huge. The other thing was, and I'm being really honest, I've never actually said this out loud. The other thing was, it was something that could be mine. My husband had his thing. My kids all had their things, and I didn't have anything. And I was sitting there like going, what about me? Like, I have talents and I have strengths and I'm capable of things. And I was so bored with being at home. If I had to watch Elmo one more time or play blocks or do the ABCs, like, I was gonna scream. So it gave me an identity and allowed me to use my giftings and my talents. And that was a huge draw for me. And then the thing that sealed the deal was, she said, Anastasia, when you hit diamond, you get to walk a purple carpet, and you get to dress up in a gown, and Aaron has to stand next to you and walk down that carpet. And it's not a military ball. It's so much better. The food's actually good. And she's like, there's confetti, and you get a trophy. And oh my gosh, what that did to my heart was like, I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. So scale. So we really like exciting adventures and things to look forward to. Mm-hmm. And we like being on stage. So to me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, this was tailor-made for me. So I got to work right away because I was like, who this is going to depend on is me and me alone, and I can do this. So yeah, so that's really what started my journey, and I set my sights and I did what it took. I loaded up my minivan with the kids. I got into Diamond Club. That was the whole reason I wanted to get to silver. My upline was like, yes, because that meant she was getting to diamond. I was her fourth leg, so she was all for it. Yay. And I knew I needed to get to other states that I knew people, because again, in Alabama, I didn't. So pregnant, no excuses, you know, pregnant, a zillion children. And my husband was in flight school. So if anyone knows about flight school, it's literally like they hook you up to a fire hose and then they just turn it on full blast. So he was like not even mentally, emotionally like there available. So I was like, that's okay. I'm going to go do my thing. And I would tell him that all the time. I would call him from Colorado or call him from Hawaii or call him like wherever it was that I was, and be like, hey, we're here. And I just taught this class, babe, we're going to get to Presidential Diamond. And that was my, like, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. So that's my story, I guess, in a nutshell.
I freaking love it. I love it. That's so great. It's such a fun time when I look back on that hustle time in my business. And not that I don't hustle now, but it's just different. And when you tell that story of like, you know, where you're building that belief in yourself and you're building that belief and it's just it's so fun. You know, I remember when the first year I went, I built to gold my first year. So I was a little bit slower, but I was working a full-time corporate job and had kids and all the fun stuff. So it was nuts.
Yeah.
I'm in club that fall. And the last month we were like, I had a chunk of volume that I needed to hit gold in December. And so the week after Christmas, like the day after Christmas, I called the 3 people on those 3 separate lines. And I was like, look, this is what I want to, you know, I would love to see us get here. What do you think? And they're like, okay. So they're like, you go talk to so-and-so, and I think I could make this work, and I'm going to try this out. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this. And then all week long, we kept checking in with each other. It's like high-fiving each other over the phone, like, yeah, that worked out. Oh, that worked out, but I'm going to try this instead. It was one of the most fun weeks in my entire history with doTERRA, because when you have people like partnered with you and they're going for a goal and you're going for a goal and you're just all hustling it, it's super, super fun. So
it is. And and that lines up too with doTERRA's like levels of belief with the ranks. Like to get to gold, you have to have that faith in your builders and your leaders, and to go, can we do this? Can we get here? Because you can get to silver. Anyone can get to silver on their own. But to get to gold, that's when you really need your tribe. And yeah, that's monumental. So I know. I look back, I'm like, wow. At the same time, I'm like, that was so exhausting.
Yes. Well, it's one of those things that when you do it, though, you only have to do it once with doTERRA. I mean, I'm not saying, again, if we do have our pushes and we do have our, like, we're going for this next thing, but it does change.
Yeah.
But that initial, like I think that when I was in labor, I only have 1 biological daughter, and then I have 2 stepkids. And I remember my doula telling me when I was in labor for like 2.5 days.
Oh.
With contractions every 2 to 3 minutes, like full on labor for 2.5 days, like over 50 hours. It was crazy. And so I remember her telling me every contraction I had, she would like remind me, you never have to do that one again. That contraction's over. You never have to do that one again. When I felt discouraged. And so I've always remembered that. And I think that whenever I have to go through hard times, I just broke my leg. So I'm like, okay, well, I never have to go through that 48 hours again. That is over. And so with our business, it's the same way. Like that first year was absolutely insane. I was exhausted. Honestly, I don't know how I survived it. But I never have to do that again. You know, I was able to quit that job. And now I go through periods of hustle, but it's fun. And there's breaks in between too. So I don't know. I think it's really, it's amazing.
It is. And you have more of that push. I love that example, that visual. I'm such a visual person. So that visual of the push, anyone who's had a baby, you've had to push, like you have 9-10 months, because really y'all, it's 10 months, it's not 9 months. A man came up with that like calendar time frame. But you have, like, if you take that baby to 42 weeks, you've got a solid 10 months of being pregnant, your body, everything working towards that transitioning. You're learning how to eat differently, you're learning you have to go to the bathroom 50 million times during the night. Like there's all of that stuff that's like you're preparing yourself. But then there's the push where you're actually pushing that baby out. And in the scheme of things, that push is minute. It is so small compared to the 10 months of, well, being honest, hell. I hate being pregnant. So through the 10 months of hell of being pregnant, I'm not one of those.
How many children do you have?
I have 6. But I'm not one of those cute glowing moms. I'm just like, oh my gosh. They're like, how are you doing? I'm like, miserable. I hate it. It's like, there's this thing growing inside me, which I know it's such a blessing, because every doctor and specialist told me I would never be able to bear children. So another thing that God's like, joke's on you. But then you come down to that time where it's like, you're going to push this baby out. You've been gearing up for this. And it's like, you just ran a marathon in that, whatever, how many pushes it takes. Some people it's like 3 pushes. Some people it's like 3 hours, especially if it's your first, it's like 3 hours. But it takes everything in you, and you're so exhausted after, but there's this huge, just like release and relief. And there's this like Wonder Woman moment of like, I did that. Like, holy freaking cow, I did that. So that's when you talk about pushing to the next rank. Like, that's what it takes. It takes that amount of strength, energy, everything that's in you. But then you don't ever have to push that baby out again. You don't have to push for that rank again. Like,
yeah,
you've done it. And you can sit back and have your husband rub your feet, or whoever, or whatever.
Or just get a massage.
Just get a massage. There you go.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So, I'm listening to you tell your story, and, we talked a little bit when we were prepping for this. It's like, where there's a will, there's a way, right? Like, that's what I heard you say in that video that caught my attention. You're hauling your kids around in a minivan in Diamond Club. I mean, oh my gosh, girl, there's so many people that would not even, they wouldn't even consider that as an option, right?
Right. There are. Yeah. I mean, I even had, people on my team that would tell me, oh, I have 2 kids, or and I'm like, okay. I mean, and being really honest, it just means you just don't want it enough. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I think there's this huge like stigma wrapped around this idea that only certain people can make it to the top. Only special people with special circumstances where everything's going their way. Mm-hmm. And yet that couldn't be further from the truth. I was listening to Tony Robbins and what is his name? Brendan something. Yes, chart. I love him. And they were talking about how you look at these people that have like, they've like made it according to the American eye or the world's eye. They've like made it. And they're the people that have been through like hell and back, that have overcome everything imaginable, every obstacle that you could think of. Mm-hmm. And I look at doTERRA the same way. And there is not one person that, and I know a lot of presidential diamonds, blue diamonds, double diamonds, like that, they are not marked and scarred and have been dragged through the mud and have picked themselves up over and over and over again and decided that they wanted this more than they wanted the excuses, the I can't do it. Like, they picked themselves up by their bootstraps and they went for it. And that's the only reason that they got there. And I think when I understood that really early on in the business, was I wanted this. This was for me. This was for my family. This was to get my husband home. This was for me to find my identity. And I'll have talks with my builders or even like cross lines, and there's not that hunger there. There's not that they want it more than anything. And that's okay. That's where they're at. But then at the same time, we can't turn around and make it as an excuse that, oh, can't do that. Cause I'm like, so-and-so right over there, they've got that like in tenfold and they've already done it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want it, you'll get there. I mean, yeah.
And it doesn't, and it's not going to
away.
look the same. You know, I think we get hung up on you
It's
hauled your kids around in an RV and you were able to go, because I can hear some excuses, even like people could say, oh, well, but she had connections in Hawaii and she had connections in all these, like you can always find those, oh, well, she was able to do it because of the circumstances. She had people all over the country, or, you know what I mean? Like you can always find a reason why we think somebody else can do it, instead of looking at and comparing ourselves and thinking, well, I'd have to do it the same way as she does. Whereas
right.
I've always found it helpful to look, I my whole life, it's one of my gifts. Being in doTERRA a long time, it helps you to recognize your own strengths and gifts.
Yes.
One of mine is that I'm really good at looking to other people who have gone before me, and but I don't try to emulate them exactly. I just look at what are they doing, how they do it, and how can I make that work for me?
Yeah.
And it's a blessing, because I just thought that's how everybody thought, but that's not how other people think. We can get real lost in the weeds.
Yeah.
It is comparing, but it's comparing in a way that's useful. And so, and that was one of the things I really wanted it. And I had no idea how to do sales. I had no network. I mean, I worked all the time. I had a couple of friends from high school that I was still friends with. And the rest of it was like corporate professional people. And I was terrified to approach them. And so, I ended up doing all of my initial building mostly through cold. I would set up public classes and go hang up flyers all over town. And then it sort of went, and I would approach people that I was Facebook friends with, but that I didn't know very well. I wasn't related to them. And they had like mentioned that they were struggling with a health issue, and I would just mess with them. Because if they told me no or blew me off, I wasn't worried about it, because I didn't know them very well.
Right.
So it just helped me to, I looked at what other people were doing. It's like, I'm supposed to get people to book classes. I have no idea how to ask people my friends and family to host classes for me. So instead, I found a way to get going.
Yep.
With my confidence to get myself out there, and then it sort of evolved from there. And then I was able to get people to host classes. So I love that idea of where there's a will, there's a way. You don't have to do it exactly the same way as other people.
No.
Look at what they're doing and say, is there a way I could make this work for me?
Yes. And really evaluate the story that you're telling yourself. So like you're saying, if you're looking at whoever it is and you're saying, oh, well, because she had this or she had that, that's how she was able to. So then I don't. So now I don't get to diamond. Who says?
Yeah.
No, you're the one who says that. Nobody gets to tell you. Nobody puts a baby in a corner. Nobody gets to tell you that, like, you can't have what you want and you can't achieve your dreams. You're going to have to figure out a way to get there. There are some basics. I mean, you have to enroll people, but no one says where they have to come from. One of my amazing rockstar builders was a cold call that I was very persistent on, and they lived in Florida. And I just took I would take a bunch of business cards from coffee shops that like are trendy, cool coffee shops down in like 30A, Seaside, Florida. And I cold called them, and she like called me back, and then she kind of like blew me off a little bit. And then finally I was like, oh yeah, I was living in Alabama. I was like, oh, I'm going to be down in your area. Like, can we set up like a little one-on-one consultation? And I had never approached a chiropractor, natural medicine doctor, a therapist. Like, I never had done that before. But at each step, at each level, you're like, you burn through your warm market, or you burn through the way that you've done it before. So you're like, now you gotta do something else. You gotta switch it up. So at that point, I would say from like gold to diamond was a lot of cold calls, and then building even on social media, which is a whole other thing. But yeah, I mean, where there is a will, there is a way, and not everybody's journey is going to look the same. In fact, I don't know one other person that their journey looks the same. I mean, even like looking at you and I, our journeys are so different.
Mm-hmm.
and our circumstances and our lives. And yeah, but the thing is, you only need, depending on where you want to go, if you want to go to diamond or blue diamond or presidential, you only need between 4 to 6 rock stars. And when I say rock stars, I mean people like you that are going to approach the business like it, that have that hunger, that want it, that are going to be amazing, that are going to grow and flourish and create this team culture that they want. And when they're owning their business. So, I mean, in the whole wide world, you can find 4 to 6 people.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible.
Mm-hmm. So Anastasia, to wrap this up,
Yes.
I feel super inspired. I'm like, yeah, let's get out there and do this.
Let's do it.
So that's good. So is there any last thoughts that we want to leave with our listeners of who maybe are looking at this year ahead? I mean, this is being recorded in the end of January. It's a slower time, we're heading into a new year. So are there any last tips or advice that you would give to somebody who is just ready to let go of the baggage, let go of the excuses, and just dive in and find a way to their goals? What is there any last tips or advice you would leave for them?
Yes, I would say be prepared. Have a map. Know where it is that you're going. Remind yourself of it every day. Write it down. Tell your spouse about it. Tell your kids if you have them about it. Post it everywhere. I am a diamond. I am a presidential diamond in doTERRA. And put your name in there and really believe in it. And then backtrack your steps on what it's going to take you to get there. And stop being scared of the facts. Because a lot of times what's going to hold you back is in your head, there's going to be this obstacle. This person's going to tell me no, whatever it is. I'm going to have a hard time because of XYZ. So we avoid it, or we don't even want to look at it. We're like, oh, I don't even want to open up my back office because I know the numbers are going to be low. Instead, do that thing that is scaring you most. Do that thing that you're dreading the most, and take a very hard look and a very real look at your organization. See where there's the places that you need to step up your game. Look and see, what do I need to do? So for me, when I look at, and I love to do this in the new year, to just really just get raw and get real and to evaluate and to look at where I'm going, where we're going for this year, and what it is I need. And within my organization, and what I want to create within my team culture. And you have to get real and say, this is what I need. I need X amount of builders that produce X amount of volume and that have this kind of a heart and spirit and gumption about them. And then go out, boobs to the wall, and do it. And don't worry about what anybody else is thinking. Someone else's opinion of you is none of your business, as Rachel Hollis would say. And I love that, because as a recovering people pleaser, that's powerful for me. So don't worry about what everyone's thinking about you, especially family and friends, because those usually are the last ones to get on board, if we're being really honest. And just do it and accomplish your dreams and pick yourself up, because you're going to get knocked down multiple times. Pick yourself up and go at it again. So I think that's all I got.
Have fun. And I think the last thing I would add on to is find your other women that like you, Anastasia, and you and I, we've never talked before in our lives other than the last couple of Facebook messages. And yet we can get on here today and laugh and share our stories and totally get each other in what we're doing in the journey that we're on and the struggles that we face.
Yep.
And so find those women. Crossline is even better. Upline's great. Crossline's even better, but go to the events, go to the corporate events that travel around, go to the leadership, go to different things, go to other teams' meetings, and find those other people that are on fire for this too, and just be with them.
Yeah.
Yep. And get those kind of people around you, because I think that's the other thing that can be discouraging is when you feel like you're on your own and you don't have your builders yet.
Yep.
You can still create that sense of tribe and high-fiving and going for it with somebody who's not even on your team.
Yep.
So I think that's a cool thing about doTERRA too. I didn't have a lot of friends And I have so many amazing women in my life now. You know, I just feel so incredibly blessed. And I think that's another perk to doing this as well too, is surrounding ourselves with amazing people. So
Yep, absolutely. Well,
well,
thank you for this.
yes, thank you so much. I feel so pumped up after breaking my leg and being totally out of commission for like 2 weeks. You just
You
fired
put
me up, my friend. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna jump in and go for it, get some stuff going on. So it's
oh,
amazing.
good.
So thank you
Good.
so much for joining us, guys. You are welcome to hit the subscribe or the follow button. Stick with us. We're going to be publishing all kinds of fun stories and experiences, talking about doTERRA leaders' superpowers all through this year. And I look forward to continuing this journey with all you guys. Get out there and make 2019 your best year ever. It's going to be amazing. So thanks, Anastasia. Have a great one.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.